Silicon Valley is a little bit like Åre. Not vice versa. More or less as a protest to the academia and tradition in the family, I started working at McDonald's. I was kind of bored. I used to say the second best I've done in my life is to start at McDonald's because I learned a lot. But the best thing I did was actually to quit. A lot of decisions I've made is based on the fact that life is not for granted and it's a privilege. If I ever should start a punk band, I should name it Dasen. And I just said, Henrik, that's a too good name to not start a punk band. Let's do it.
Hey, Jakob.
Am I right?
You're
right.
Yes.
Welcome in the Nomad family.
We are nice to see
Today we're chatting with Jakob. What we know about him so far is that he can easily switch between being a consultant and wearing a tie to being the lead singer of a local punk band. He also started the sailing club here in Åre together with his wife. We can't wait to get to know more about him together with you guys.
Yeah, I'm also already so excited for this conversation because you're bringing a lot of energy to the table, let's say. And we saw that last Friday as well, because you have like an alter ego in a way.
Yeah, you're speaking about Jake Dawson, I guess.
Jake, you have a first name as well.
Yeah, exactly. So,
because I didn't know what it meant, but for the people who are not speaking Swedish, what does Dawson mean?
Well, it's a nickname, you can say. I think it's maybe a bit Stockholmish, but in the 80s, it was a nickname for a part of the male body. More or less.
A private part.
Mostly private, yes. I would like to say. But it's a fun name because it's not that awkward or it's a nice way of saying it. You can use much ruder word.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you decided that should be the name of your music group at some point?
Yeah, actually, that's a part of the bag of artifacts that I brought, actually, regarding Dasen. So we could start there.
You want to show already the first artifact?
Yeah, we can do that, and then we can go to Dasen.
Okay.
Well, I'm ready.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, show us the first artifact of the magic bag that you brought.
You already noticed that I am born in the 60s, maybe. So I grew up in Stockholm, north of Stockholm, and has always been really, really interested in music. So when I was 11, I guess, the punk wave came with Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, Ebba Grön, Swedish famous punk band. So I've always been a lot into music. And I've never been the collector type of guy, but bought a lot of records all the time and loved listen to music. So I brought just an example of music. First of all, for all the younger ones, it's on vinyl, of course, and it's a band that is not that famous, I would like to say, in Sweden, but worldwide in a niche called garage rock. They are really famous. I guess they were quite big in Belgium by the time.
I'm curious. I don't know. What is it?
They are called the Nomads. So actually, if you search on the Nomads on Spotify, you say they are still around as well.
Really?
Really?
So they are all they have quit their jobs now. They are old, but they are still touring around the world and playing garage rock.
And it's all wrecked up.
Yeah, so this is one of the records. It's actually not the best in my opinion, but I brought specifically this one because the painting is made by a guy called Ulf Wahlberg, which was one of the semi-famous painters during the 60s. Oh. And my parents were really into that kind of art. They were kind of leftish, so they had a lot of friends who were painters and made a lot of peculiar art from the 60s. Ulf Wahlberg was one of those, so we have some of those paintings back home.
What's the peculiar art from the 60s?
It is, first of all, it's a lot of political
tainted.
It's some kind of, maybe not directly, but indirectly, it's a political message with it. And then, they don't maybe look like traditional art did at that time. And today, maybe that's not how you decorate your home. We do have some.
What was the political environment back then? It was kind of against the system idea?
Yeah, and in Sweden it was, let's say, when I say leftish, I mean it's the Social Democrats had been ruling for 50 years or something like that. We had the Vietnam War, and a lot of the academics were protesting against the Vietnam War and the different kind of inequalities. So my parents grew up during the 60s. And of course, if you studied at university and were some kind of aware of what's happening, you easily got engaged in politics, either left or right.
Did they then end up in politics?
Yes, they did. Yeah. They did. Not in an extreme way, but yes, they had their ideologies that they followed.
And did that trickle through to you, as in ways?
Both yes and no. Yes, from the point that I admire everyone who's actually engaged in politics, actually regardless about their ideology, because I think it's important in a democracy that the people actually do engage. I haven't engaged, but I'm really interested, and in the right context, I also can argue for my points. But I also believe that one of my strengths, I guess, is that I can view on things from different views and quite good at connecting the dots. So I also realize that very often it's not black or white. It's actually a matter of what perspective you have and the context you are in, so to speak. So no, politics is not my main game. Even though I actually do have some assignments today that are in a semi-political context. I work with some assignments in the UN, for example, which is a typical environment where politics is a part of the game. But that's another story. I'm not sure I have an artifact of that. But that
what kind of assignment do you mean?
It's consulting assignments. I work a lot with different aspects of innovation. And that's been following me my whole life. I've been working in constant development of the environment I'm working within. So it's been a lot within products and services from the beginning. Now I'm working more on a system and society level, so to speak. So the term, this is a very narrow niche, but it's called system innovation. And it's, if you take, for example, sustainable goals, the global goals that we need to strive for, all of us, they implies that there is a common will for everyone, and that will is should be they should be strengthened by the politics who make policies, and the policies should point in a certain direction, and then we need to strive to change the system according to that direction. And it's extremely difficult because it's a matter of technology development, but also social development and personal development. So it's really, really difficult stuff. But it's engaging a lot of people on governmental level all over the world.
And what's your role in all of this then?
I'm a consultant. So no, but my role is, I used to say that since I've been working practically a lot my whole life with in large companies and startups and as a consultant and so on, I tend to take the role that I'm striving to understand how the politics and the policies should be implemented in reality. So that's my role when I speak in those rooms with a lot of policymakers that are from the theory perspective.
So getting something from an idea to practical.
Yeah, exactly. So, and when you are on this very abstract level of policies on a governmental level, it's not very easy to see how this should be implemented all the way through to day-to-day action.
And you feel like you've seen actual results with these policies that have been implemented, or the way you could help create that?
More yes than no. I'd say it's a lot of talk, of course, but I strongly believe that something is happening behind the scenes. So I am an optimist. I believe we can fix this, even though it looks a little bit shaky at the moment.
You're talking about the environment in general?
Yeah, I'm thinking about not only the environment, but the world we are living in is a bit shaky. Environment and polarization and, what do you say, demagogic.
Well, maybe this is
governments.
a bit of an abstract question, which could have millions of answers, but what do you see as solutions for the world we're living in? If you could have like 3 solutions that you think should be implemented.
The first one is to not stop talking to each other on all levels. Of course, in day-to-day, but also specifically on the political level, to not let the polarization stop us from talk to each other. So, for example, in those environments I am in, actually I came to the concert more or less directly from the UN in Switzerland. So I actually had the same shirt on the concert as in the UN building, because I had only one.
So from the UN to stage diving, basically in one day.
More or less, yes. But the fun thing there is that both Ukraine and Russia, for example, is more or less sitting at the same table. And they can talk to each other. And when they talk to each other off the record, so to speak, I can see them maybe not laughing, but at least they are talking to each other. And I think that's really important, to talk to each other. That's one. Another one is to realize that the world is very, very complex and it's changing all the time. So we can forget about trying to plan how we should solve all the challenges. We need to experiment and bring up the entrepreneurial spirit in each and one of us, including politicians, because we need to find new ways to solve stuff, which means we cannot plan 5 or 10 years ahead.
I like that idea. Is that happening? For me, it's kind of 2 separate worlds: politics and entrepreneurs. Is there a fusion already in a way?
No, that's typically what we are arguing for. Me and a couple of other colleagues to me, we are arguing for that. We need to bring in entrepreneurship, or let's say the entrepreneurial way of solving stuff, into not only politics, but also to the public sector in general. To not be that, square, but to understand that we need to bring up the entrepreneurial spirit in ourselves and understand that we need to experiment, learn from the experiment and walk on. And not everything will succeed, but if we do this clever, we can do this. Entrepreneurs, they use a term called affordable loss. So we see what we have at the table, and we have a hypothesis of where to move, and then we decide, okay, how much can we afford to lose to just try and see if it's working. You are working in the same way. And this we must bring into the public sector as well. How much can we afford to lose just to make an experiment to see if this is working or not?
Instead of never trying, just kind of do it and give it a chance.
Exactly. So and of course, now I don't want to talk about specific project, but for example, it's a big factory built in a northern city, which is obviously in financial trouble. I'm speaking about Norfolk, I can say, but I think that it's a great idea. We need to do the electrification all the way out. We need that kind of technology, and we need to bring it to Europe. But maybe it should have been implemented in a more, iterative way. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't really know what you're talking about because we're not familiar with the company you just mentioned. But
it's a big talk in Sweden.
Is it a company that does fossil fuels? Batteries. Okay.
Very modern battery. And it's a great technology. It's a great idea. It should be done. I hope they survive. So I'm a big fan of it.
It's a startup, or it's already.
You can call it a startup. It's actually a guy. I actually met that guy once upon a time when me and my wife were in Silicon Valley. We were in an accelerator program in Silicon Valley and had a study visit at Tesla. In the very, very beginning, it was when they still did more or less the first series of cars, and then the guy who then ended up as an entrepreneur to start up this company in Sweden. He was actually a manager of logistics in Tesla. So, yeah, he knows the drill, so to speak.
So something is going wrong with this factory, and what do you think the solution is then? To understand it better.
Take it step by step. Not try to do the big bang implementations. But that's my personal view. So.
That makes sense.
So you were in Silicon Valley at some point? I heard through.
I've been there a couple of times, actually.
Yeah. How is that? For me, it's like this crazy tech world that's kind of away from the things that I've experienced maybe in my life. But is it as exciting as it sounds? Because it feels like Silicon Valley is something super exciting.
I would never move there, actually. But it's speaking about artifacts. I have some artifacts, as I told you here. One that I haven't is because I guess it's still online, but it's an article in a paper called Dagens Industri, which is like in Financial Times for Sweden, where they interview me when we're doing this accelerator program, and the headline of the article is like, Silicon Valley is a little bit like Åre. not vice versa. Deliberately I said that because I can see that there are clear... what I love with Silicon Valley and other places like that is the entrepreneurial spirit, and that a lot of people have taken a conscious step to move to this place and to build their lives there and to use their entrepreneurial spirit to do something. Not necessarily to start a company of their own, but just to make that kind of move is a sign of some kind of will to create. Yeah, exactly. To create your own life, so to speak. And that's definitely a sign for Åre, I must say. And that I like with Silicon Valley. Then it's big and it's complex and it's a lot of polarization nowadays that I think is very, very bad for society. So about 3 stuff to do to change the world. I think that the last step is to fight the inequalities in all the ways. I think that's really important.
But how do you get that going? I always wonder if literally, sorry for my language, but shit needs to hit the fan in order for things to change.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we're hitting that wall now, kind of. I don't know how soon that's going to happen, but that only by something really bad happening that is actually going to change.
Yeah.
And maybe that sounds very negative because I'm a very positive person, but yeah, to get a whole world almost to look at things differently, something big needs to happen. Or do you have another view on that?
No, I totally agree. And the question is, what is that big thing that makes people think? And maybe that's a lot of different things, depending on the context you are living in. The climate, of course, is one. Actually, Åre is one of the places that might be quite severely hit by climate change, since we have this Åreskutan, the mountain with heavy rain and so on, that can someday it can become quite bad, actually. But then you might live where it's heat waves or lots of poverty, or what I think is happening in a lot of countries, that the inequalities from an economic point of view, with a lot of segregation, could also be something that actually hit the shit that hits the fan. So segregation is a part of the inequality problem, I think, that we need to fight. We cannot maybe solve it, but not make it worse anyway.
To take it back more local then, how do you see this problem being solved here in Åre with the weather and the rain? And
I think there is an awareness about it because we are living in it and we see it happening. So one is, of course, to create some kind of resilience from an infrastructure point of view. So you can see that in the, not the city of Åre, but in the center of Åre, that they are rebuilding or restructuring Mørviksholm, for example.
I was wondering what they're actually doing. Do you know that?
They are strengthening the walls, and I think they have done a lot of rebuilding upstreams as well. So the thing is that we want the water to follow the river, not to be clogged up in the mountain and then take other ways, because that's where the shit hits the fan locally.
Yeah, because I saw when I walked along the river that they made it a bit wider in certain part and put like gravel. And then now they're doing the river in town. They're making it wider and stronger. And they just keep doing that until the bottom. And is there anything else that they can do? Or is that kind of it so far?
I think there are more things to do. I believe that SkiStar is doing a lot up in the mountain. Yeah. To make sure, I think the thing is, I'm not an expert on this, but I've seen, during my 15 years here in the village, I've seen a couple of rains that is regarded as 1 in 100 years. Okay. I think I can count to 5 at least during my 15 years. And each time, one of the problems has been that water is clogged up in the mountain, taking new ways, and then suddenly in the surrounding village, water comes from places it shouldn't come from. Okay. So I think a lot of the work is to actually make sure the water is where it should be. Yeah. More or less. But then from another point of view, during I think it was 2015, with a lot of refugees, Åre was definitely one of the places in Europe that had most engagement from people living here to actually bring refugees on board and try to help them the best we could. I'm not definitely a part of the ones who were mostly engaged, but I think everyone was engaged in some way or another. And in hindsight, that was a perfect example of how to actually work with integration. Because, I mean, we're humans. Integration is to get connected in the local community. So,
Have you ever had that entrepreneurial spirit? Or is that something your mother and your father gave you?
I cannot say they gave it to me because they were academians. Yeah. So they were, but of course, in my family there are some prominent entrepreneurs, you could say, but it's more. I think it's a way to exploit my energy and my imagination.
Because where did your journey start? Is that after high school? Or your first job?
My first job was after university. Actually, my first job. That's one of the artifacts. My first real job, so to speak, was actually at McDonald's. And this bag is not from McDonald's, definitely not. But McDonald's was fun because I was really. I didn't enjoy school too much by the time. So, and also as a protest.
Was this during university or during gymnasium?
Before university, after gymnasium. So more or less as a protest to the academia and tradition in the family, I started working at McDonald's. I was kind of bored. And by the time we had, I think, 17 McDonald's in the whole Sweden. And now it's about 300. And it was a very entrepreneurial guy who had the assignment from Ray Kroc in the USA to build this up. So they were constantly looking for young talents who could help them to start new stores. And, I started very young, and I got a store manager for actually the second largest store in Europe. I think it was much too young. I worked like
Because you were like 19 then, 20?
I was 21 when I was
21.
a store manager, and it was way too early. I do not recommend that at all. I actually burnt out, even though the term didn't exist by that time. But obviously, I was totally burnt out 4 years later.
Too many responsibilities, or?
And I took the responsibilities too serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what happened was that in the store next to McDonald's, so meeting Paul Ederhausen was one of the big entrepreneurs I met. And one day a guy called Ulf Eklöf came to me, knocked on the door and said, I'm starting a new store for sports equipment in the store next to your restaurant. Do you want to come and have a look? I said, yes, why not? So we went down, and it was, it was nothing. It was just a large area. But they had this imagination that I want to build a sports store with a mix between sport equipment and clothes and so on. And it should be kind of chic, but everyone should afford it. So that was actually the founder of this store, Stadium. And it was its very, very first store. So I still meet him irregularly, and we always laugh about that situation because it was so strange. Mm. So I started there, but then I realized working at McDonald's, I used to say the second best I've done in my life is to start at McDonald's because I learned a lot. But the best thing I did was actually to quit, and for a lot of reasons. I cannot talk about them here, but I realized that I want to do something more of it. So I started at university.
And then you started studying after that?
Exactly. So I was not old, maybe about 24 or something.
How was that, being an older person on campus?
I had to relearn everything. The math was the biggest problem for me because it was a Master of Science in Industrial Engineering and Management, but it was a lot of math. So I scored 0 on the first exams. I realized this will not work if I do not work really, really hard. But then I had some artifacts. No, I don't know which one actually. I can take this artifact. Actually, this one should be a silver. But I couldn't find it.
Can you explain what it is?
It's a medal from a sailing competition. But I actually wanted just to mention the word sailing because I've been very, very into sailing my whole life. Yeah. And was quite promising as a junior sailor, but didn't bring it together. So when I started at the university, I had quit sailing for 5 years, and I thought, okay, maybe this is your second chance actually to do the sailing. So when I moved to Linköping, which is a small city south of Stockholm, I brought my dinghy, a small sailing dinghy, and then I started racing again. So the fun thing there was that I was fairly good, but I met a guy who was really good called Jonas. And I phoned him up one day and said, I'm Jakob, moving from Stockholm to study, but I brought my sailing boat. So do you want to sail with me? Because I need a sparring partner. He said, yeah. So when the ice broke up on the small lake of Roxen in March or something like that, it was freezing cold. And we were out sailing, and I felt that, he was obviously faster than I were, but I had something. So I just asked him, what are your goals with sailing? And, he said, I want to go to the World Championship because it's in Denmark, I believe. I have a good chance of it. Wow, that was... But then I will make it to my goal as well, I said. So let's practice together.
What kind of boat was it?
A small single-handed dinghy called Laser.
A laser.
Laser dinghy, yeah. So we started sailing, and I promised myself to sail every day. Exactly every day until the last day of the qualification period.
And how long was it then in total?
3 months. So I did sail every day, and I was studying at the same time. And when the racing series, the qualification period was over, both Jonas and I actually had qualified for the World Championship. So that was something very surprising for me. But I have had that because I'm not overly talented, I would like to say, in sailing as well, but I had this dream and this determination.
I just wanted to say, where most people at that age, I guess, are studying and partying and trying to figure out life, you had 2 really big goals. Like it sounded like you really had the internal motivation to get your studies going and to make it happen. And then you wanted to be a professional sailor at that age, I think, is a big,
big but goal. I don't want to sound this too pretentious, because first of all,
I think it's really cool.
I was partying as well. So.
Okay.
and the thing, I mean, I made it in school, barely. I made it in sailing, barely. I'm not a world champion, and I'm not a guy who are famous from that point of view. But it's brought me so much joy and energy in my life. So it's a very important part of my life. Both the study in Linköping, because it was kind of recovery from my burnout period. I met a lot of new friends. I met my wife. My first wife, I must say, but this is also an artifact, actually. This barely never happens, actually.
He's taking his ring off for listeners who can't see
exactly. Artifact.
Okay.
So I must talk about my family and so on as well.
Can I see it? I want to feel everything.
You're the first guest who brought artifacts, so it's quite fun, actually.
But
2001.
Yeah, but that's the second ring. So the thing is that in Linköping at the university, I met our first wife, and so when I finished school, I actually have some more artifacts regarding job. But taking this first, we were heavily engaged. And then we got a son in 1994. So this is a long time ago. And everything was quite okay, but she didn't feel... I worked in Malaysia by the time, actually. So both Sarah and our son, we lived in Kuala Lumpur. And that was really interesting, but she didn't feel very well. So when actually on the birthday, the 1-year birthday of our son, she had been on a lot of different examinations at the doctor, and they actually phoned and said, you need to go into the hospital now. So that we did, and then they told Sarah that you got cancer, and this is serious. And it was actually the 1-year birthday of our son, Ludwig. So that was the start, actually, of a really, really, what do you say, troublesome period. A lot of downs, but a lot of ups as well. So it was not all that bad. But it turned out really bad. So she died at age 28. Wow. And I was left with Ludwig. But I actually made a promise to myself to not feel sorry at all. So I still feel sorry, of course, for Sarah, but I've never felt sorry for myself. I feel, what do you say? I feel gratitude that I'm still alive, that I can enjoy life, see Ludwig be older. And I met Åse a couple of years later. So the rest of my story is, I think, a lot of decisions I've made is based on the fact that life is not for granted, and it's a privilege, and let's do the best out of it. So it's been, for me, it's also been a source for a lot of positives, strangely enough. So,
it's a very young age to be confronted with something so heavy.
That is definitely too early, but it happens.
Yeah.
And now I repeatedly see it, unfortunately, a lot of friends of mine who are facing the same, and that's life. So that's, that's definitely a turning point in my life. And when people ask, why did we make the move? There are different stories about that. But one, from me personally, the drive to do it was actually a direct consequence of the insight that why wait? If we want to do it, then do it now directly. Don't wait.
You were already interested in Åre, or for what reason?
Yeah, the fun fact is actually that I'm a part of the Stenmark generation. In the 70s, we had this very famous skier, Ingmar Stenmark, and it was a craziness in Sweden because he was winning all the time. And by that time, we only had 2 channels on TV, and one of the channels always sent the Stenmark competition in the World Cup series on telly, and everyone got, the teachers in school, they brought in the TV into the classroom, so everyone actually could see Ingmar Stenmark. So it was a huge trend with skiing. So a lot of people in my age living here, we are all part of the Stenmark generation, I think, yes.
You could already ski before you came here?
Yes, I was very early in skiing. But I skied in Stockholm, on this kind of very, very small slopes. But we regularly went up to Duved because my parents didn't like Åre. They think it was stiff upper lip. So they wanted to go to Duved. What
did Duved look like back then? Was there something?
It was very family friendly. I think actually it's actually looks a little bit like it does now. I think it's aged with grace, I must say.
So there were already some shops as well?
Yeah, okay. But I actually believe Duved was more of a village than Åre was by the time.
Oh yeah, I heard that before actually.
So I'm really enjoying seeing the comeback of Duved, because that's what happened, at least in my opinion, the last 10 years. Duved has been really, it's really nice to see. So, But before I go to why we went up to Åre, I can just talk a little bit about my time at Ericsson, because it's I'm turning 60 next year, so I'm already trying to reflect on what I have seen, what kind of technology shifts have I seen during my time, and of course, internet. I think it was in 1994 at Ericsson. Actually, I first saw the Netscape Navigator, and I were playing with the internet before, but seeing Netscape Navigator and see that you actually with a visual interface can interact with other people online. That was amazing. Even though you could do it before, but you need to be a techie. But that was really interesting. And then it was fun working at Ericsson. I worked there for a couple of years actually to see this change from being a pure telecom company to being some kind of information communication. And I also I didn't work with the phones specifically, but indirectly I did. So I actually have 2 artifacts more or less demonstrating the technology shifts that is so interesting to see. First one is this, which is it's a working prototype or a pre-series of an Ericsson phone called R380, I think.
With an antenna.
With an antenna and
wow,
an interface. And I think my kids haven't lost the pen yet, so you actually have a pen. So you could do like this.
Really?
Okay. So on this one, I actually, for the first time in my life, read my emails on the phone.
So it was like before the BlackBerry, kind of.
Exactly. So this was really, really early. But I could then also actually imagine that reading emails on my phone, maybe that's a kiss of death when it comes to personal freedoms. I actually rarely don't do it nowadays. And the fun thing is that this was actually...
This is never made as a consumer product.
It did came out as a consumer product in limited editions because nobody actually bought it. And then this came.
The iPhone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were kind of like a hipster in your time.
I know I won't say I was a very ordinary guy, but it was fun playing those stuff. But feel on that one, feel it in your hand, and that's really a piece of art, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
we've seen the Steve Jobs documentary and the way he thought about design, and you can definitely feel that in this machine.
So still, I think if they would ever make that one in a retro version for 2025, that would be a total success.
That would definitely work.
Because how old is this one?
It's from 2006 maybe or something.
So that's almost 20 years if
Especially
you think about that.
the storage on his phone is 16 gigabytes. Imagine that.
Yeah, that was one of the best ones. Yeah, so that was fun. And then Ericsson made a lot of restructuring, and I was by the time recruited to a small startup outside city of Linköping. And then I actually had met Åse. So this ring is for you, Åse. So we continued to live in the city of Norrköping. And I started at a small startup called Secret Labs. I've never been into programming, but the original founders that recruited me, they were heavily into Python, which is now one of the definitely largest languages in the world, especially when it comes to AI. Most of the AI
I've never
stuff
heard
is...
of Python, but you...
Yeah, I've heard
know?
of it. It's a programming language, like you say.
Okay.
So this was in 2001, I think. My first day on the job was actually 2003. It was September 11th, 2003 was my first day on the job.
Okay.
We were just watching, I shouldn't laugh. We were watching the screens and saying, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
It was with the
airplanes going into the World Trade Center.
Yeah. And that wasn't the perfect time to jump on a startup within the IT sector because everything crashed. But we actually made it fairly good, I think. So,
what was the goal? Yeah, you probably have the same question. What was the goal of Secret Labs?
The first goal was actually to make an integrated development environment for Python language because we believed it would be a huge language, but we were way too early. And then as a hobby, both the founders were playing with Python for visualization. So it turned up that we pivoted and found that if we were very good at visualization weather data. So we turned out
weather
to be,
data.
Yeah,
Okay.
so from radars
okay, wait,
and
one
satellites.
step back. So I think that the average listener is more on my side in in this story. For me, this is Chinese. So Python is a language like for coding.
Exactly, it's a coding language.
Okay, and then coding, in some way, if you know how to code, then it all makes sense. But how were you too early then?
Because Python was so new, so it was for
so what was
enthusiasts.
Different about the coding that was than Python?
Python was much lighter, much easier to use. It was for coders, it was a much more productive language, and that's why it's so popular today.
But it was a different language, so you had to be open-minded to wanting to learn it.
It was a different language and was an open source language, which was also very new. So it was open source.
So why would people not want to use that?
Because they needed to, in an easy way, play with data and create applications. So what we did was, for example, with the Python language, we could take data from weather satellites up in the space and weigh the radars on the ground and turn this data into information that could be put into maps where you could say, okay, it's cloudy, it's raining, it's thunderstorms. So basically could take raw data from satellites and radars and put it...
turn it into a forecast.
Not into forecast, but into a visualization of the current state of the weather. Forecasts could also, of course, be interpreted and visualized, but we worked with real data.
So that's what they did? The startup turned into...
Yeah, it turned into visualizing weather data, and then we sold it. And it was, we didn't get filthy rich in any way, but anyhow, we actually managed to make it turn out well. Then I started to work. Then I started to work more directly with innovation. So I worked very much in the intersection between academic research and entrepreneurship and business life in science parks and that kind of stuff. But I got stuck. I was like 40 years old and thought, what should I do with the rest of my life, 40 years crisis. And Åse, my wife, which I had met during this time, And we, by that time, also got 2 more kids, Simon and Matilda. Both me and Åse felt that, we want to do something more tangible together. And definitely we want to have real winters, because we had been very engaged in Norrköping with the local ski club, and we've been really engaged. So I've been working a lot with creating snow in the slopes in Norrköping. So I know, at least in theory, what they are working with that here in Åre with making snow.
And what do you mean by engaged? Before you were there wasn't that many people skiing, or the slopes weren't that well prepared?
Actually, Norrköping is one of the traditional places for skiing in South Sweden. So it's a very prominent place. So my engagements were very much because Åse is brought up in Norrköping. So she has been competing a lot with Pernilla Wiberg and all those famous skiers. And her family has been engaged in the slopes in the beginning. So it was very natural for us to bring the kids to the slope and help with making snow and be in the cafeteria and work with ski lifts and everything. Okay. But it's in a very small scale. And unfortunately, we had 3 green winters in a row, so we were really struggling.
3 winters, and is that still today, or is it changed?
It
goes up and down.
Up and down. But this was it was 3 green winters in a row, and Åse, who actually had been living here as a working on seasons, and she also had been living in Östersund, studying there. She said that, Jakob, why don't we move up to Åre? And my first reaction was, okay, show me the job application that I can search for. But that was a very boring answer, I think. So we debated that a lot, but then I realized that given the experiences of life and also my drive to do something more, create something, then suddenly we just decided, let's move. That brings me to another artifact, actually.
Nice.
So, we had debated it for some time, but then when we decided, let's do it, then both me and Åse is really, really decisive. So we literally did it in 24 hours. And that was actually, it's really interesting because they found out in Dagens Industri. So they thought it was so interesting, so they actually made we thought they were going to make just a small article. Exactly.
So it's like changes in the middle of life.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was kind of new in that time, or it was kind of special. I guess it's on the front news.
No, we are definitely not the first one. We have our own, what do you say?
So Jakob is now holding a newspaper with an article.
Yeah. And it might be a little bit noisy in the microphone.
That's okay.
But I think what surprised us was actually that it was... maybe I should have done this before. Here it is. It was so many papers. So we didn't understand what to expect, but they took us up on the mountain. So I actually, under my ski wear, I have only jeans and a shirt, actually. So we didn't make many turns. It was freezing cold. And then this is 15 years ago. And if you take a look at this picture, speaking about equality, isn't this typical stereotypic?
So your wife in the kitchen and you.
But also behind the computer on the other picture.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings me to that. Sometimes I can find myself being, old school. But we laugh at this picture now. But this wouldn't happen today. Because I'm more in the kitchen than Åse is.
Okay.
And did you move to Duvet then? Or
yeah, we moved to Ullon. So we found the dream house. And it was actually during the crash. It wasn't a crash, but it was a downturn in the economy. So there weren't many houses for sale because the market was so bad, like it was a year ago maybe. So we found a a house that we were supposed to rent, but then we asked if we could buy it. And he said, no, you can't, because I'm sure I will not get as much as I want for it. And we asked, how much do you want? And he said, a sum. And we said that we need to sell our house in Norrköping first. And then we did, and we said, this is the amount we have. And then we agreed in between. It was very easy. And my belief is that they had an intent to preserve Åre and Ullon for people who wanted to live here. Because I'm quite sure they could have earned more money if they sold it to tourists.
I heard at some point somebody else on the podcast talked about is that the Ullon part is kind of like a small little quarter in Åre, that it should stay within people who actually want to live here, and that it's kind of illegal to do that in the law, but that it's under the
exactly. So I think we are really, really thankful for that, because it gave us the opportunity to live in our dream house and also to bring up our kids on best place on earth, I'd like to say. So what's fun with this article is that it inspired a lot of people. I've heard that repeatedly. I still hear it sometimes, that it really inspired other people to do the same. Okay. So it was also second start, I'd like to say, of a movement, because there were a movement in the 90s, I think, when Sweden was very, very big in IT. There were a lot of companies to try to move up to Åre, but they didn't succeed. But the second wave of entrepreneurship that was non-touristic, that definitely took off 15 years ago. And I think we were a part of that movement. It was a lot of other people as well, but a part of that movement. And this article really made a difference for a lot of people who saw, it is possible. They are like us. They have kids, and they are just doing it.
But that's what I mean. It used to be kind of a scary thing to do then, I guess, to move up here into the cold winter, whatever people thought of it. So it was kind of a special thing that you were on the front page of that newspaper.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was important, and we've been heavily involved since our background in working with entrepreneurship and the intersection also between, science and entrepreneurship, and working with those kind of clusters of people who really want to make change together. It's summed up very well, and I got a tips from a guy in the board of the science park that I was head of. When I said I was moving up to Åre, I said that take a look at Boulder in Colorado and see how they have managed, because they have deliberately positioned themselves as a high-tech hub for people who want to live in the wilderness. So at this time, I was heavily influenced by what's happened in Boulder. I've never been there, and I've just briefly talked to guys over there after everything has happened here in Åre. But I read a lot of books, because I read a lot of books on how they actually did it. The Boulder Manifesto, how to build a community from ground up and make it based on entrepreneurship, and how to bring both venture capital and public support into this cocktail.
Because I only know Boulder as a hipster place. Okay? Yeah. As a hipster place in Colorado. That's a bit like the Oregon of Colorado. It's often
I
called.
can imagine. So you have been there, I guess.
No. But I was just imagining that used to be like a very small village as well, and they managed to turn everything around because of that manifesto. I really think it's cool.
It's really
a manifesto.
Cool. And the thing is, a long story short, from a Boulder perspective, is that it's a couple of guys who made a fortune in Silicon Valley. One of them is called Brad Feld. He moved up to Colorado. He was more or less burnt out. And then he said, I need to invest my money. And then the story says that one of his many business trips to Silicon Valley, he was wondering, why am I traveling to Silicon Valley? Why are not entrepreneurs traveling to Boulder instead? So he turned it all around. So he started a business incubator in Boulder, and he promised everyone that if you are succeeding in this business incubator, I will bring money to the table. So they built up community hubs, they built up incubators, they brought in venture capital, and the rest is history, because they were ranked as the #1 hotspot for startups outside the main cities for many, many years in a row.
Very impressive.
And more or less exactly is what happened in a very small scale in Åre, I'd like to say. So we now have House B, which is derived from Åre Coffee Club that we started at this time, I would like to say. House B, we have the E14 Invest and a lot of other capital investors that are looking a lot at Åre. We have the business incubator. So we do have the stuff, and we have a closeness to Östersund. It's not too far from Stockholm, I'd like to say, and it's very close to Trondheim, which is the tech city of Norway. So,
is there an Åre manifesto?
We actually try. There are somewhere in my computer maybe something that could be the beginning of a manifesto, but
no,
we didn't come that far. But I think that it's still it's a momentum now that is not the personal dependent on any persons anymore. It's more like it's a part of the culture. So I'm very convinced that Åre will continue to develop as a very interesting place for creative people in a lot of different areas. And let's say that the pandemic was maybe the tipping point for this, because nowadays you can work anywhere with clients anywhere in the world, actually.
Yeah, it was easier for people to move here who were thinking about it.
So I don't have any client in Jämtland, actually. I work only with clients outside and international, and it's perfectly doable. And I know a lot of people who have the same situation. So that's really, really interesting.
Has it grown since you've been here, the idea of the whole technological hub that Åre is?
I think it's developed. The development of House B has been really, really, really important, I think. And I also believe that people know that things is happening in Åre that is not only depending on tourism. And you can see it also that the town is actually living all year round. And there is room now for entrepreneurs within the restaurants and pubs to actually have open all year round. So you clearly can see it in the village. And it's of course also because of the activities during summertime is much more popular, like hiking and biking and so on. So I think it's a very, very, it's a privilege to be able to part of that, being a part of that. So
you see yourself living here for a long time?
Yes. I had a theory, I think it's still valid maybe. I told my friends more for fun than as a fact, but in my theory you live here either for 3 years, 13 years, or for life. It's a very simple formula. 3 years means that you are moving up here, but you cannot not really find the proper context. Mostly, I believe, because you can't find proper jobs. So that becomes a problem. It's not existing. It's not interesting enough, or it's not paid enough, something like that. Or you don't really get integrated into the village in itself. That's very seldom, because
it's not that hard.
It's very easy to get integrated into the village as such. But that's a 3-year limit. So if you succeed for 3 years, then a lot of people who move up here with kids who just started school or are about to start school, which means that it's basically 13 years ahead of you with school. And when they finish school and you get what me and Åsis experience is, as we speak, the empty nest syndrome. Oh shit, no kids at home.
How does that feel?
It's awesome. But when you get that feeling, then of course you need to actually reconsider, should we stay in Åre or should we do something else? And that's an obvious choice that, a lot of people choose to move back to Stockholm or move abroad or take other adventures of their lives, and others choose to stay. And if you choose to stay, then you're in it for life. And we choose to stay. So we're in it for life. I look admirably, if that's a word, with admire in my eyes on the pensionists sitting at Svartberget Cafe at 9 o'clock after been skiing 1 hour in Gästrappet in VM8, and then they're taking a coffee and chattering and bragging, and then they
Continue their day.
I think that's the way. And I also think that it's easier to stay healthy in this village. I think stay healthy and healthy longer. I think it's actually a recipe for good.
And the music as well, I guess, because you're having a second life
exactly
in that department.
Exactly, that's another artifact.
A microphone.
Is that the first one you ever had? Or?
Actually, it is. Shure SM58. More or less a standard equipment for every rock band in the world. But that started as a very fun thing because it was actually exactly 10 years ago.
Okay. So it looks used.
It's definitely used.
A little bit reshaped. Nice and heavy.
It's heavy. Yeah.
Started 10 years ago at the 50 years party with a good old friend of mine. It was a blend of people there. And then one guy I knew briefly from windsurfing and kite surfing on the lake. He was there, and another guy who I know very well. And we found out that we were the only three really enjoying and dancing heavily to Sex Pistols' Pretty Vacant. And then this guy called Henrik, a very nice chap, he said to me, are you also into punk? And I said that, yes, I grew up with this music. I love it. And then he said, you know what? I have a name for a punk band. If I ever should start a punk band, I should name it Dasen. And I just said, Henrik, that's a too good name to not start a punk band. Let's do it. But I can't play anything. I said, neither can I, said but let's learn. And then we had Bosse as well, who was at the party. And we knew he could play guitar. You have seen him live. So I just said, let's go to the bar. And then we brought in Jack Daniels for everyone and said, let's start a punk band.
And how many years ago is this?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So you were around 50 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
The first rehearsal was a joke, actually. I mean, it sounded terrible. Terrible. And we didn't have the stuff. And I was...
So where was this even? Like somebody had a garage?
Yeah, exactly.
When you were 16, basically?
Henrik had a garage. So we stood there in the garage, and I was trying to play bass, which I couldn't play, and sing, as I couldn't do. And it turned out that we had to have the original sound very, very loud. So it was like, when you're a kid and we're just playing playback. So we stood there in the garage irregularly, I must say, for almost 2 years. And more or less nothing happened. But it was fun, drinking beers and laughing and listening to good music. And then suddenly another guy showed up who was really, really good on bass. And that was a game changer, because then I realized that I cannot take this as a joke anymore, because they are actually expecting me to learn something. And it was the same for Hank on drums. So we really started to try practicing. And then during the years, people have moved. So and Henrik moved to Portugal last summer. So that was definitely a down in the life of Dawson, when Henrik moved to Portugal, because then we had a new guy on bass, Martin, very talented guy, and Bosse, and me, who was at least improving, but no drummer. But then a guy who I actually met during this sailing competition, called Jens, he phoned me up and said, "I've heard you're in trouble, but I think I can solve 2 problems in one shot," he said. And I just said, "Give it to me." Well, I know where you can do rehearsals, because we have a small store back in Åre, but I can make room for you, it's okay. Yeah, but that's not solving the real problem. We have no drummer. But that problem I've solved as well. I've talked to a friend of mine who is a painter living here next door to you, more or less. He's an excellent drummer. Sounds like a plan. And the rest is history. And it turned out that the drummer, Rickard, he's above everything else when it comes to skills. So both me, Bosse, and Martin, after the first rehearsal, said, "Oh shit, now we really made to bring our shit together, because otherwise Rickard will not cope with us." So the last year we have been quite serious, actually, in rehearsal. And I'm starting to take sing lessons.
Yeah.
Never heard of.
Yeah. You said at the last party, you said that your singing was not good, and I was really surprised. I was like, "This is actually really good."
But actually, that's the old mental model of myself. So now this is very new. So I've met a fantastic song coach in Edsåsen.
Okay.
So we had 3 express lessons before this gig, because I was very frightened that I should lose my voice halfway into the concert. So I had 3 gigs, 2 theoretical gigs, 2 theoretical lessons, and 1 in practice. And the theory was more like, don't forget to warm up, be self-confident, believe in yourself, learn the text so you don't have to worry about that, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Important, logical, but important.
Extremely important. Yeah. So I've been,
What do you do to warm up your voice?
Trying to sing scales, which is a new phenomena for me. So I'm trying to sing scales, doing some humming, doing some massage, wearing a, what do you call it, neck warmer, drinking warm water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Really prepping, taking it serious?
Yeah.
That's pretty
no
cool.
Booze.
No whiskey.
No booze.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No booze.
Why not, actually?
Actually, maybe I can take a little one, just to get loose enough. You want to have control of your muscles. And of course, you want to remember the text. So we are all very serious when we are having our gigs.
And how many gigs do you have a year now?
Well, it depends what you count as a gig, actually. But this was the second one we did. The third one we did. The last 5 years, actually. That was open. We did one last spring at Åre Sessions. It was more of a, illegal pop-up gig outside the session, which was very, very fun, actually. And this one was maybe the most organized we've ever had. We really wanted to make it as a party for the village. So,
you did a great job.
Yeah, it was fun. Actually.
It was a party.
It was
for
party.
Sure.
and speaking about this record, if this record represents my emotional experiences from music during my life, the concert was, from my point of view, a way to express all those experiences and try to re-manifest experiences in the concert. So, with the stage diving and crowd surfing and that kind of stuff, It's fun.
For the audience, you got to envision this, but it was how many people? Maybe
100 plus
100
maybe.
people, and you forced kind of everybody to come close to the stage.
Yeah, I think
in the
that's
beginning,
really
and
important.
that was really good.
It's
But
really
then-
important to get contact with it. I have actually the aim to look everyone in their eyes at least once during the concert, and that's quite a job in itself if there are so many people there. So
Yeah, but you felt that, and then you got enough people in front of you to be able to actually start stage diving.
Yeah.
It was quite impressive to see with such few people, actually, in a way. It's really fun.
That was really fun. That was really, really fun.
Mm.
And
Any upcoming gigs planned? Or
Yeah, we are discussing a world tour, of course.
Of course, as you do.
Can't mention any tour dates, but it would be for fun, of course. But
Speaking of fun, if I remember well, once when we were having lunch with you at House B, you told us about windsurfing down the river here. Is that possible?
That was something I did to celebrate my 50 years. 50 years of living. That I arranged Åre Run. If that was the one you're thinking about, that was that was really. So my idea was because now we actually can talk about sailing. So I bring this artifact as well because I think it's very important for me. I can show you later what it is, but. When we moved up 15 years ago, I brought all my surfing stuff up, and I actually had quit sailing because I had been sailing so much. So I quit sailing, brought my windsurfing stuff up, and then I remember first windy day, I went out windsurfing, and then I came home and I said to Åsa, I can't believe this. This is the most beautiful experience I've been through. Windsurfing with all the mountains, and it was heavy wind, and I'm so amazed no one else is windsurfing. But then I must say that the community of windsurfers and kite surfing was coming by the time. So it turned out that we were actually a few people who enjoyed windsurfing and kite surfing on the lake. So my intention was then to make more or less a copy of Red Bull Home Run and JJ Home Run, which was another famous run made by a guy living in Björnhänge, which was more or less a Chinese downhill from the top of Åreskutan and then on the backside all the way to Björnhänge.
Oh, wow.
Totally crazy. So my thought was, let's do a rip-off of that one, but I do it on the lake instead. So I created Åre Run, and the concept was very, very simple. We are waiting for heavy westerly winds during autumn, and when we see that the fan is gearing up and we really get windy, then we just show up everyone on a given time. And then we have a Le Mans start with kites and windsurfers, and the first one in Björnhänge is a winner. One class for kite surfers and one for windsurfers.
And where was the start?
In Draklanda. So basically in the western part of the lake we started, and in the eastern part of the lake the finish line was. No rules, first one is winning. And the problem was that there were no rules and there were obviously no safety as well the first time we did it. So I actually got a phone call from a friend of mine who actually said, Jakob, you are crazy. Are you going to start a competition in this wind? It's too much. And then I said something stupid. And if you want to, you can censor this word that is coming now. But I basically said, security is for pussies. We are on. And then we started, and the thing is that since the lake is converging, so you can say you get a severe push between Renfjället and Holiday Club that you don't expect when you are rigging the stuff on the western part of the lake. So everyone had two large sails and two large kites. So when we
the combination of kites and windsurfing
it was horrible to see actually, because not everyone, the skilled ones survived, but it was a lot of crashes and it was really severe.
How many people showed up?
I think we were maybe 15 people, windsurfers and kite surfers, and actually people in the sailing club that I'm engaged in, they actually jumped into their boats and became security because it was obvious that we needed security. So that was a blast actually. And then we have.
Did you survive?
I did survive actually.
Yeah.
I did survive. I was heavily over-rigged, but I made it. I was windsurfing by that time.
And who won?
Actually, I did that one, but that wasn't too difficult because we were only 3 windsurfers, and the other 2, they crashed in this. So, but actually, I'm not the best windsurfer in town. I would say that is Emma Moreus. She's older than I am, but she's the queen of the lake, actually.
Nice.
But then, so we have actually had irregular, we have had Oregon run, both during summertime and also wintertime, because you can do exactly the same during wintertime on snow kiting. So snow kiting is also something very, very special. So I've done that a lot last 3 years, and it's a combination of sailing, off-piste skiing, mountaineering, in maybe...
Do you put something under your feet then?
Skis.
Skis. Okay.
Yeah, skis. Or you can do snowboarding as well.
But there was also a story that you got really close to the waterfall. Or was that not you?
Oh, that was maybe when I was stand-up paddleboarding. Yeah, that's not... that's another story.
I also want to hear that one.
But let me talk about snow kiting for a while. I actually forgot that artifact, but I was about to bring a kite as well. And I met a lot of people, since I've been surfing a lot, I met a lot of kite surfers. And some of them, they told me that you really should try kite surfing during winter time. It's something special. So some of them actually moved up here just for the kite surfing in winter time. So I started trying that. I'm a very slow learner, I must say, in some perspectives. So I tried it many years ago and got into it slowly. And then 3 years ago, I decided, let's go all in and really buy stuff so I can do this properly. So I bought really special-made snow kites, and they are known for being very small, they are very light, and they are safe, because it's kind of dangerous if you're out there, especially alone, because a lot of things can happen on the mountain. And then I started exploring Ullådalen, Storlien, the lake, of course. There are plenty of places that are never heard of from a snow kiting perspective. And I didn't understand how fortunate we are from that point of view either until last winter I were in Serre-Chavaillet. And it's famous between Serre-Chavaillet and La Grave, which are 2 winter resorts in France. There is a Col de l'Otaret, which is an open area, you can say. I don't know.
I've been there a couple of times, and when you drive, you always see people kiting.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's actually it's said to be one of the best places in the Alps for snow kiting. And when I came there, I was so disappointed because I mean it was coming to a small child play area next to school. It was very limited, and it was a lot of forbidden. You must only kite surf here, and we were like 100 kite surfers, and it was very, very crowded. And then I said to my friends, now I understand how unique this place is from a snow kiting perspective. When you go up to Ullådalen and you walk up a couple of 100 meters, then you can kite for miles and miles and miles and miles in total wilderness.
And do you kind of always stay with your feet on the ground, with your skis on the ground?
I do.
Okay.
That's a promise to myself to not do any stupid things.
So it's kind of a bit like you're using the cross-country tracks then, or not?
No, you're just free.
Going in the
wild.
Free skiing.
Cool.
It's totally amazing. And Storlien, I mean, it must be one of the best places in the northern, in the world. It's because it's so close to civilization, so you can actually drive by car all the way to the place where you launch, and then you have the Swedish allemansrätten, so you can go wherever you want. So it's amazing.
Okay, new activity on the list.
Yeah,
that's definitely something to put on the list.
But I always felt like the wind and stuff might be too irregular or too hard to manage everything here. Or is that not your opinion? You can still find good days?
You always find good days, yes. Yeah? It's more that you need to adapt to the circumstances. And to all you listeners out there, don't try this by yourself. make sure that you take proper lessons before, because kite surfing could be really, really dangerous, especially in the mountains. So you really need to have a...
Is there anybody teaching here?
Yeah, you have a guy called Jonas who have Åre kites. Strongly recommended to take a course.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
That's maybe something to do a pod about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a world we don't know, and yes.
Cool. And what was that book about?
Yeah, you just showed us an artifact.
Exactly, because sailing, being on the water and using the wind as an engine has been a very important part of my life all the time. So when our kids were when they learned to swim, the next step, okay, how do we learn them to sail? So we started to talk, me and my wife, we need to start some kind of sailing school or something. And exactly the same discussion was taking part in Björnänge, on the other part of the village. So we met on a party, and I started to talk to some of them, and they said that we want to start a sailing school. And I said, me and Åsa have discussed this as well. And they said, we actually believe we have found a guy who can lend us some boats, so we have something to start with. So actually it was a guy in Stockholm who said that if you take on the challenge to actually start a sailing school, I can bring you 6 boats, and you take care of them, and you make sure children learn how to sail. So that was more or less the start of it. It's 12 years ago now. And we started to build a bridge, because without a bridge we couldn't handle the boats. And then we started to we didn't want to start a club, so we actually started a new section within the Åre Slalom Club, which is the club for the Alpine Club, but it also has football and gymnastics and a lot of stuff now. But we started the sailing section of Åre Slalom Club, just to get rid of all the administration. And then we built up the bridge.
Do you mean with the bridge that goes over?
Sorry, the
dock.
The dock. Yeah, the dock. Started to build the dock. Actually, on the backside of the bridge at Holiday Club, which was actually a place that were forgotten by God, I would like to say. It looked like rubbish. So we just put out the dock, and then we started. And since the season here is very, very short, because first you have a lot of ice, then you have a lot of cold, then you have the spring flood, and then everyone is on vacation. So we started in late August, and then we went on to late September. So we started the sailing school, and we were only parents who were instructors, and we helped each other to mobilize as many kids as we could. So we went to the schools and just said, come down to the lake and we will help you learn how to sail. And the thing was, of course, we wanted to bring that joy to the kids, but we also wanted to bring more parents into the activities so we could get help. And we also wanted to bring up kids that could take on as instructors. And the first 3 years was really, really heavy, because we were overambitious and we were doing everything ourselves. And we were building this small clubhouse. We built a larger dock. We got a lot of sponsorship from people who saw that we were doing was really, really something special. We got a lot of help all the time, but we were very much driving it ourselves as parents. And I brought this one, and this one as well, actually. But I brought this one because this is from last year's Båtliv. Båtliv is the largest paper in Sweden, because it goes to everyone who's a member in a boat club gets this magazine. And it's a very beautiful article. Maybe you can't see it in the picture, but it's a lot of very, very nice picture of kids enjoying themselves on Åresjön.
Learning to sail.
And it's, to me, this article express all the joy that sailing is bringing, that it is for fun. And all those kids and all those instructors are self-made, so to speak. So, and we have deliberately been very keen on bringing everyone on board to make it not a segregated activity. Everyone who wants to sail are welcome to do it. So that one was...
How many kids are in the club now?
Every season it's about between 60 and 80 kids and youths who are engaged in some way or another. So I think we are up to 500-600 kids who have actually learned to sail. And then maybe they have moved away. They have been around for 12 years now. And they have this skill for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
nice. They know how to sail.
But in the end, it's only like a month a year then.
In practice, yes.
Yeah.
But now, actually, last year was a very good season because it was some people who moved up who have a very solid background in sailing, which been very, very good for us. So they have been able to start more advanced lessons for people who want to race, for example. I think we are having the best times before us, actually.
Are you still involved now?
Yes, I'm still involved. Both me and my wife involved, but we are very keen on bringing other people on board, so we are not personal dependent. But this one then is... a
medal.
The medal in itself is not maybe the thing, but the thing is that we were, a couple of years ago, we started bringing the kids to national events, or actually one national event of the year, and that was a Swedish championship in the boat type that we're sailing on, Åre and 2 krona. So, and it was, first time, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago, the kids said to me that we want to be challenged. It feels limiting to just be sailing on Lake Åre. We want to do some competition and meet other kids. So I said, why don't we go to the Swedish Championship in Uppsala?
Okay.
So that was actually the first time. And the Swedish Championship is also Youth Swedish Championship. And it's fantastic because everyone is competing together in the same race. So it's and you have everything from extremely skilled sailors who love to sail to beginners. So we went to Uppsala, and I think we were five boats, which means that we were 10 people going to Uppsala. And it was very, very windy. And when the race was over, we were very successful as a team. So it turned out that Åre Slalom Club actually had won the team championship. We didn't actually know it existed when we went there, but we got a large prize for the best team.
Wow.
And we got special appreciation because we had so many juniors in the team. So that was really emotional. I remember actually I started crying when I was holding a speech of gratefulness for being able to teach the children to sail, see their development as sailors, and then bring them to this event, and then together with them actually win a team.
Wow.
The Swedish Championship for a team. That was really something special. And let me say that this is not Olympic level of those races, but it's still national championship.
Yeah, and you guys made that happen. So that's beautiful.
It's really fun. What we said was that why don't we arrange a Swedish championship back home? Since we have all those kids who love sailing and we have a lot of skilled sailors, why don't we invite Sweden to come to Åre and have a Swedish championship here? So the year before that must have been 2022, I think. We were competing at the Swedish Championship down south, and I, together with one of our instructors, we actually came second. So this should be the silver medal, but I couldn't find it actually. And that made me think that now we are good enough to actually have a Swedish Championship. So I said on the prize-giving ceremony that I actually had said it to the organization first, that we are prepared to arrange a Swedish Championship in Åre. So I invited everyone up to Åre. And the fun thing was that the championship in Uppsala, speaking about weather, we haven't talked about weather, but everyone knows that the weather here could be anything. But in Uppsala, it was actually 0 wind and sun day 1, and it was heavy storm and rain day 2. So I said to the audience that you are very welcome up to Åre. And I must say that we have had very bad self-confidence when it comes to weather. But now when we experience this weather in Uppsala, I can tell you it's not worse in Åre. So welcome up to Åre. And then we came up to Åre and said, shit, what promise did we make? Because now we actually must have a Swedish championship. So we did engage a lot of people in the village and a lot of sponsors. And then we also decided that we need to break the pattern that previously has been with Swedish Championship, that it should be in the autumn, it should be Saturday and Sunday, and everyone should use their own boats and so on. So we decided, let's have it in the middle of the summer, exactly at the start of the vacation for the main part of Sweden. So we decided to have it the first weekend in July, which happens to be the same weekend as Åre Bike Festival. So we knew that the village would be alive. So we didn't want them to come to Zombie Town. We really wanted them to explore real Åre. So we invited everyone to a Swedish Championship in Åre, and we said that this will be in the top summer season. So you will experience everything while you're here with biking and everything. Hiking and fishing, whatever you want to, and sailing, of course. And we also said that one of the races will start at 11 o'clock in the night, because we have daylight even during nighttime. So one of the sail races in this competition will be held during nighttime. And, it came, I think we were 35 boats or something like that, who came from whole Sweden.
So it actually happened?
It actually happened last year. And
really?
My wife was a project manager for the event, which is not unusual for her. That's her. She's natively a project manager, I would like to say. And I was more of a visionary. And a lot of other people were involved. So when the race took off, we had not typical Åre weather, but we have 0 wind the first day, actually, so it was kind of scary. But then it was very, very windy. And we had perfect races, and we had a small sponsor village, and we had live distribution on internet, and it was very something special, because we inherited a lot of the things we do when it's World Cup races. Also, my wife is actually chief of race during the World Cup, so she really knows how to do this. And a lot of other people are really skilled in events. So it was a perfect event. And then I said to Åse just a couple of weeks before that I really want to race with you. It is on our backyard. We've been into sailing here since the beginning, and this is, it's
The moment to shine.
The moment to shine. Let's do it. And Åse is also skilled sailor, but we were a little bit afraid that the tension on board would be too challenging for our relationship. And since we both were really engaged also in the setup of the whole championship, it was really intense. So we were chattering a lot on shore. I can tell you, people heard that this couple really has an intense relationship. But then actually also said to me that, Jakob, as soon as we leave shore, then just smoke a peace pipe, and then we focus on the race. Not literally smoke, but so we did. And it was actually the first time I did race with my wife on this level. And I found out that was perfect for my mental state, I must say. Because we didn't turn out too good in the beginning, but then it started to be more and more windy. And I've always been very fast in heavy air. So we started to win one race and 2 races. Then I started to get really, really nervous, because this could really lead to something. So it was repeatedly, actually, my wife needed to use her mental, what do you say?
Calmness?
Calmness to calm me down and say, focus on the race, Jake. Focus on the race. And so I did. And we sailed, some of the races we did together was the best I've done in my whole life. So we actually turned out to win the Swedish Championship as a married couple.
Wow.
In hometown, in Åre, which is in itself very, very special.
Wow.
So that was very, very fun.
So what's next year? Is it again next year here, the championships?
I actually, that gave me a lot of courage. So I actually started racing a more advanced dinghy, much more advanced double-handed dinghy together with an old friend of mine. And we sailed a lot 25 years ago. So he actually phoned me up last year and said, you seem to be enjoying sailing again, he said. Would you consider to do another campaign? And I said, I'm all in. So this year I've been traveling all around Europe, actually.
Not to be mean in any way, but at your age, still doing races all over that's not a very normal thing, is it? Not that you have to be normal, but just curious.
No, exactly. But once again, we are not talking about Olympic level. We are talking about advanced, enthusiastic level, I would like to say. But it's still, living in cheap hotel rooms, sleeping in the car if needed, low budget.
Nice. So it's amazing that you're doing this.
So actually, we went to Lake Garda the last spring, sailing a Europa Cup. And then it must have been something wrong with the GPS because it didn't show the right timing. So when we were about to finish the race in Lake Garda, we were both about to start working on Monday morning and saw that, shit, we will not make it if we are not driving, 24/7. So we sat in the car in Lake Garda, looked on each other and said, okay, now it's non-stop back to Stockholm with a car, with a trailer back on the car. So we traveled 35 hours. It was non-stop from Lake Garda to Arlanda. And then I have to travel from Arlanda up to Åre, but it's another story. So, but it's for fun.
Amazing.
But it's real fun. And it's also a motivation to stay in shape, reasonable in shape at least.
Yeah.
And you didn't think of doing this with your wife then, since it went so well during the championship?
It's very, very physical boat. That one is too physical, and it's extremely advanced. So since we did, me and my crew, we sailed for 10 years. We sailed very, very seriously. So we had a thought that we could bring all that skill set up to, top level, just natively. But that was not the case. So we have been starting from back and then working.
So what
us
do you do
upwards.
now to stay in shape?
I try to keep active with things that I like. Skiing, cross-country skiing, alpine skiing, running a little bit. I've been starting lately. Before the gig, I thought that now it's time, actually, Jakob, to really get in shape. And so I'm trying to do activities that I like. I'm not so fond of being on the gym, but at my age, I know from science that you really need to stay in the gym, at least.
The gym.
To work on strength as well.
Yeah, so maybe you will meet me someday down the line.
Yeah.
On the gym.
We're not there at this point in our life.
No.
But maybe someday.
Are there any more artifacts?
Yes, it's one more artifact.
A bottle.
Of ABBA, the most famous Swedish band ever.
So I open up with an artifact regarding music, and I close with an artifact regarding music. And of course, our generation is also brought up with ABBA.
That's a funny slogan, by the way, for the listeners. It says endlessly refillable.
Exactly.
It's a water bottle.
And I believe the word endlessly is not a coincidence, but ABBA Voyage is, I'm not sure you heard about it, but Björn and Benny, they have always been in the front when it comes to pushing the edges of what can we do with our creativity. And of course, they've done it musically. So they have done Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia the music, Mamma Mia the party. They have built concepts around the music. And then they were starting to do a new album. And then, of course, obviously, everyone asks themselves, will you reunite? Will you do a tour? And they have always said, no way. But then, since they do have the capital resources to do strange stuff, they decided why don't we try to reproduce ourselves as digital avatars and put up a concert never heard of before. So what they did was that they actually purpose-built a building in London, in the area where they had the Olympics once upon a time. So they actually purpose-built a concert hall made for digital performance of ABBA as avatars.
Like the hologram kind of.
Holograms. So they were, I brought my wife and friends of us we went to London, it's just a couple of months ago. And my expectations was very low. First of all, I like ABBA, of course, but I'm not a diehard fan. And seeing holograms on stage, maybe not my thing. But I'm really interested in technology, and I'm interested in what will future bring to us from a technology point of view. So the reason why I bring this artifact as a last point is that what I experienced there was very strange, because I were there now with my wife and with my friends and with an audience of 3,500 cheering persons. I was here now watching holograms. But the holograms were so real. And I really tried to see if I could see any glitches at all. But I couldn't see any sign of digitalization of it. It was so real. I can't imagine how they did it. So what I saw was actually the past. So I found myself crying during Mamma Mia, because I remember myself being a child, singing in a microphone with my sister to Mamma Mia. So it was really being in the past. But what I also saw was a glimpse of the future, because maybe this will be our way of experience culture in a totally new way. And we are older and we might be disabled, and it's a lot of stuff we can't do. But I'm quite sure technology will bring new experiences into our lives that is totally amazing. And ABBA Voyage for me, that was the first live experience of future experience
The
that
potential.
I expect to see. Yeah. And rumor says that Björn and Benny have bought the right to create a total digital concert with Kiss. And that could be something to experience.
Wow. So they're branching out. They might do more of these things.
So this means that Dawson could live on forever as well, one day.
Dawson must be experienced live. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks for sharing that.
What a story.
Pretty cool. Now I want to go there. There's like multiple shows, I guess?
Yeah, it's amazing. They have been around for over 2 years, and they are sold out 7 days a week.
Okay. Crazy.
It's amazing.
Maybe we should go.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. I think we...
Have we touched on everything you wanted to touch, Hans? Or is there anything else you like to mention?
No, more or less.
More or less.
I'm run out of artifacts anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should invite you again at some point, because I think there's a lot more to uncover. But it's been a beautiful journey into your past and future and present. Thank you so much. We do have a tradition, though. is as we wrap up. There we go again.
There we go again.
As we wrap up, we have some rapid fire fun. Do you ski or snowboard?
Ski.
Evening person or morning person?
Morning, surprisingly enough.
Why surprisingly?
Pardon?
Why surprisingly?
Because I enjoy nightlife.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hot tub or sauna? Hot tub or sauna?
Hot tub.
Hiking or biking?
Hiking.
That's it, that's all. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it was really nice. I have one more, whiskey or gin?
Whiskey.
Actually.